Johnny Dawson Winter III was born on February 23rd in 1944 in Beaumont, Texas. He was born into a world that didn't quite know what to make of him. The son of Edwina Winter and John Dawson Winter Jr., Johnny was an albino, a condition his mother barely understood when she first heard the term. At the time, his father was overseas in the military, and his mother, only 28 years old, was left to raise her firstborn alone in the middle of World War II. When she learned of her son's condition, she thought it meant he was biracial, something she knew wasn't possible. The reality, lack of pigmentation in his skin, hair, and eyes, would soon define much of Johnny's early life. When Johnny's father returned 2 years later, he came home to an entirely unexpected son with pale white skin and almost translucent blue eyes, but he didn't let that stop him from nurturing Johnny's future. A saxophonist and guitarist, John Dawson Winter Jr., believed music could be his son's path forward. The Winters were upper middle class, financially stable thanks to John's post-war career as a building contractor. And reassured by doctors that there was no genetic connection to albinism, the Winters welcomed a second son, Edgar, in 1946, who, to their surprise, was also born an albino. Johnny and Edgar were the only albinos in their family's history. This difference set them apart from an early age, shaping their childhood in ways few could understand. For Johnny, it often meant being the target of relentless teasing and bullying. He was called names like Cotton and Whitey, ostracized by classmates, and made to feel like an outsider. Growing up in school, I really got the bad end of the deal, he later said. People teased me, and I got in a lot of fights. I was a pretty bluesy kid, but Johnny wasn't one to back down. At age 12, tired of being ridiculed, he decided to make a statement. For a solid week, he ate spinach inspired by Popeye and Cheerios, which he believed gave the Lone Ranger his strength. Armed with newfound confidence, Johnny marched onto the playground and confronted his main tormentor, Harold. I beat the hell out of him, Johnny recalled, later with satisfaction. That moment was a turning point, a breakthrough that solidified his reputation as a fighter. From then on, Johnny was not only known for his musical talent, but also as the toughest kid in school. I've been this size since I was 12, he said, and I was the best fighter in school. Music, however, was Johnny's true refuge.
Like, subscribe, thank you.
Encouraged by his father, he picked up the clarinet at age 5, moved to the ukulele, and finally settled on the guitar by the time he was 11. The guitar quickly became an extension of his being, a way to channel his frustrations and express the emotions he couldn't put into words. By 1959, at just 15 years old, Johnny formed his first band, Johnny and the Jammers, with Edgar on keyboards. They recorded their first single, School Day Blues, which was released on Houston's Dart Records. Their energetic live performances earned them regional fame, with appearances on local TV shows further solidifying their reputation. Johnny's early exposure to the rich musical tapestry of Texas played a crucial role in shaping his style. Beaumont, an industrial town populated by oil field workers and shipyard laborers, had a thriving music scene. Johnny soaked it all in, listening to Cajun music, country, gospel, and, most importantly, the blues. As a young teenager, he spent countless nights sneaking into black clubs to watch artists like Muddy Waters, B.B. King, and Bobby Bland perform. Racial tensions in Beaumont were high. Johnny was born just months after one of Texas's worst race riots, but he felt drawn to these spaces, welcomed by musicians who recognized his passion. Nothing ever happened to me, Johnny said of his time in the black clubs. I always felt welcome. I think they knew I was sincere, that I was genuinely possessed by the blues. One pivotal night in 1962, Johnny and Edgar ventured into the Raven, a black club in Beaumont, to see B.B. King perform. The only white faces in the room, the brothers stood out. But Johnny, just 17 at the time, was determined to prove himself. He repeatedly sent messages to BB asking to play. Initially hesitant, BB eventually relented after Johnny presented a union card and enough people vouched for his talent. Handing Johnny his guitar, BB watched as the young guitarist delivered a blistering performance that earned a standing ovation from the crowd. He gave me his guitar and let me play, Johnny later recalled. I got a standing ovation, and he took his guitar back. By the mid-1960s, Johnny had fully immersed himself in the blues scene, collaborating with local artists and recording under various aliases, including Texas Guitar Slim. He He frequently played with bands like Neil and the Newcomers, supporting other musicians and developing his craft. His versatility shone through in his ability to play everything from rockabilly to swamp boogie. Meanwhile, Edgar had begun to carve his own path as a multi-instrumentalist, showcasing his talents on keyboards and saxophone. By 1968, Johnny Winter found himself standing at the edge of a major shift, not just in his career, but in the music scene as a whole. The blues revival, sparked by artists like Cream, Jimi Hendrix, and Mike Bloomfield, was gaining traction with white audiences, and Johnny's longtime passion for the genre suddenly seemed like a ticket to something bigger. But at the time, he was stuck playing commercial music to make ends meet. He'd spent years juggling gigs where audiences demanded covers of Wilson Pickett or Otis Redding, and the idea of transitioning to pure blues felt like a gamble, especially in Texas, where the market for white kids playing blues seemed non-existent. Enter Johnny Mac Turner, a drummer who had known Johnny since childhood. One night, Turner showed up at a gig looking like he had stepped out of a psychedelic commune, beads and long hair completing the look. He encouraged Johnny to take a chance on playing straight blues, telling him, "If you got out of here, man, and came to Dallas to play straight blues, you could really make a fortune." Skeptical, Johnny replied, "Well, if we were in California, New York, or Europe maybe. But in Texas, there's no way in the world we're ever going to do it." Turner persisted, urging Johnny to give it a shot. For the first time, someone believed in Johnny's potential to do what he loved, even if it meant starving for a while. The pieces started to fall into place. Turner joined Johnny's new band, as did bassist Tommy Shannon, who would later gain fame with Stevie Ray Vaughan's Double Trouble.
There seems to be this rumor going around that Johnny Winter and I don't like each other, and it's, if I may say so, total bullshit.
Shannon agreed to try it out in exchange for a place to crash, and with everyone living on shoestring budgets, Johnny's girlfriend worked as a beautician to help make ends meet. They dove headfirst into the Texas blues scene. There was just one problem: no one wanted to hear what they were playing. The band slogged through gigs where audiences outright hated their blues sets, demanding they return to the familiar sounds of soul and pop.
"We want to hear Blue Suede Shoes number again." "Wow, sorry, I just played that song." "You better play it again. I was in the bathroom. I didn't hear it."
But Johnny and his bandmates refused to give up. They eventually landed a spot at the Love Street Light Circus and Feel Good Machine, a hippie club in Houston. Johnny wasn't much of a hippie himself. He considered himself a hard-working capitalist and had little patience for the flower power ethos, but the gig was a breakthrough. They played for free to test the waters, and the crowd loved them. From there, they started getting regular gigs, adding the Vulcan Gas Company in Austin and a few venues in Dallas and Corpus Christi to their circuit. It wasn't lucrative. Johnny went from earning $300 a week playing commercial music to scraping by on $40 or $50 with the blues band. But the audience's growing enthusiasm made it worthwhile. "We really felt we were just about to make it," Johnny said. "People were loving us all over." That same year, Johnny recorded the Progressive Blues Experiment in Austin. The album showcased his mastery of the genre, blending raw emotion with virtuosic guitar work. Tracks like Be Careful with a Fool and Going Down Slow revealed not only his deep understanding of the blues, but also his ability to channel its essence with electrifying intensity. His rendition of Robert Johnson's Kind-Hearted Woman captured the haunting spirit of the original.
"Till I get satisfied."
While Hook You veered into stomping, rock-infused territory, a hint of the sound that would soon pack stadiums. The buzz surrounding Johnny continued to grow. In December 1968, he caught the attention of Rolling Stone when the magazine featured him in a profile on Texas musicians. The article, which declared him the greatest thing in Texas still starving to death, sparked a bidding war among record labels. At the same time, Johnny was invited by Mike Bloomfield to perform at the Fillmore East in New York City. Taking the stage for a rendition of B.B. King's It's My Own Fault, Johnny delivered a blistering performance that left the audience and Columbia Records executives stunned. Within days, Johnny signed a record-breaking $600,000 contract with Columbia, a staggering sum that underscored the label's confidence in his star power. In 1969, Johnny released his self-titled debut album on Columbia, featuring standout tracks like Good Morning Little Schoolgirl and Dallas. The album was a critical and commercial success. It seamlessly blended blues classics with Johnny's original compositions, showcasing his fiery slide guitar and impassioned vocals. With bassist Tommy Shannon and drummer Uncle John Turner backing him, along with guest appearances by blues legends Willie Dixon and Big Walter Horton, The record cemented Johnny's place as one of the most exciting new talents in blues rock. Johnny's live performances during this period were nothing short of electrifying. He toured relentlessly, playing festivals and major venues across the country, including a now legendary set at Woodstock. Armed with his Gibson Firebird, Johnny tore through extended jams that combined the raw energy of rock with the soul of the blues. Songs like Meantown Blues and Johnny Be Good became fan favorites, while his mournful voice gave every lyric the weight of lived experience. For Johnny, this was validation for years of struggle on the Texas music scene. But alongside the glory came darker consequences. The attention brought by the contract attracted opportunists and exploiters who sought to cash in on Johnny's meteoric rise, often at his expense. One of the first to strike was Bill Josie of Sonobeat Records, who had recorded Johnny's live show at the Vulcan Gas Company in Austin. Originally intended as a demo to help Johnny secure a major label deal, the recording was instead released as Progressive Blues Experiment. Without Johnny's consent, Josie sold the album to United Artists shortly after Columbia signed Johnny. Despite its critical acclaim and enduring popularity, Johnny never saw a dime from its sales. Bill Josie had the tapes and he got the money. Johnny later lamented, "Even now when they sell that CD, I don't get any money." If Josie's actions stung, they were nothing compared to the schemes of Roy Ames, a Houston producer with a deeply shady reputation. Ames had convinced Johnny to sign a management agreement in his early days, ostensibly to help him launch his career. When Johnny's Columbia contract became public knowledge, Ames saw an opportunity to profit. He sold the rights to Johnny's early recordings to Atlantic Records, flooding the market with vintage Johnny Winter albums. Ames even sold Johnny's original compositions to GRT Corporation, resulting in the release of About Blues, a hastily assembled compilation of early material. Johnny was left watching helplessly as his name and music were exploited for profit without his involvement. The damage Ames inflicted wasn't just financial. His personal life was marked by criminal behavior, including convictions that eventually landed him in federal prison. Ames was indicted in 1974 on counts of conspiracy, mailing obscene materials and far darker charges that included abuse and exploitation. While Johnny distanced himself from Ames, the producer's actions cast a long shadow over his early career. Despite these challenges, Johnny's career skyrocketed in 1969, following a legendary performance at the Fillmore East in New York, where he joined Mike Bloomfield and Al Kooper for a blistering rendition of B.B. King's It's My Own Fault. His self-titled debut album for the label quickly became a classic. With tracks like Dallas, I'm Yours and I'm Hers, and Good Morning Little Schoolgirl, Johnny struck a perfect balance between traditional blues and high-energy rock. His fiery slide guitar and powerful, soulful voice earned him critical acclaim, and the album climbed the charts. Johnny's Woodstock performance later that year cemented his reputation as one of the era's most electrifying live performers. Playing late into the festival's rain-soaked final night, Johnny delivered a set that showcased his virtuosity and energy, including standout tracks like Meantown Blues and Johnny Be Good. Armed with his iconic Gibson Firebird, Johnny thrilled the crowd with his combination of raw blues power and rock intensity. However, not all gigs were as triumphant. A 1969 show at the Spectrum in Philadelphia became infamous when Johnny and his band dropped what drummer Uncle John Turner called the strongest LSD we had ever had before going on stage. The revolving stage, shifting spotlights, and general chaos left the band completely disoriented. At one point, Johnny mistook the front row for the backstage area and jumped into the crowd, only to be pulled out by roadies. It was like being on a sonic merry-go-round, Johnny would later recall. I wouldn't play any revolving stages after that. The relentless pace of touring and recording began to take its toll. Johnny turned to alcohol and drugs to cope with the pressures of fame. By 1970, he was consuming a fifth of Jack Daniels a night and using downers like Seconal to unwind. The excess eventually caught up with him. In June 1971, after years of escalating substance use and witnessing the tragic fates of peers like Jimi Hendrix and Janis Joplin, Johnny checked himself into River Oaks Hospital in New Orleans to kick his heroin addiction. "I didn't want to die," Johnny said. "The mental part was the worst. When you're trying to get off heroin, it messes with your head. It's horrible." Johnny spent 9 months in treatment, enduring grueling physical and psychological withdrawal. While in rehab, he formed a bond with members of a local rock band, Thunderhead, who would later join him in musical collaborations. After his release, Johnny vowed never to touch heroin again. "When I asked God for help, I always got it," he reflected. "I couldn't do it on my own." When Johnny returned to the stage in 1973, it was with a renewed focus. His comeback album, Still Alive and Well, marked a return to form, blending blues and hard rock. The title track, written by Rick Derringer, became an anthem for Johnny's resilience. Fans welcomed him back with open arms, and his comeback concert at Nassau Coliseum in Long Island was a triumphant moment. Throughout the mid-1970s, Johnny continued to navigate the crossroads of rock and blues. Albums like Saints and Sinners and John Dawson Winter III explored a harder-edged sound, but Johnny always felt pulled back to his blues roots. This pull became undeniable in 1977 when he began collaborating with Muddy Waters. Johnny produced Waters' Hard Again, a Grammy-winning album that revitalized the blues legend's career. Their partnership continued with albums like I'm Ready and King Bee, as well as a celebrated live album. Johnny's work with Waters earned widespread acclaim and reaffirmed his commitment to preserving the blues. By the late 1970s, Johnny had transitioned from rock star to blues elder statesman. Albums like Nothing But the Blues and White Hot and Blue really showcased his renewed focus on traditional blues. His live performances, once marked by flamboyant stage antics, became more subdued, but no less powerful. Johnny preferred to sit while playing, allowing his guitar work to take center stage. In 1979, Johnny's career reached another milestone with a celebrated performance at the Rockpalast Festival in Germany. Sharing the bill with acts like the Patti Smith Group and Jay Giles Band, Johnny delivered a set that combined raw blues with rock energy, captivating audiences across Europe. Despite ongoing struggles with alcohol, Johnny's playing remained as sharp as ever. Johnny Winter entered the 1980s at a turning point, balancing his legacy as a blues rock pioneer with a deep desire to return to the pure blues roots that had always defined him. The decade began with the release of the Raising Cain in 1980, an album blending Chicago blues, New Orleans rhythm, and rock and roll. While some critics questioned its cohesiveness due to the lack of Johnny's original compositions, fans embraced the raw intensity of his guitar work. Live performances during this period reinforced his reputation, highlighted by his unforgettable set at the Lorelei Festival in Germany, where his slide guitar thundered with power and energy, captivating audiences with a fusion of grit and skill. In between touring, Johnny ventured into unexpected territory with a quirky commercial for Tijuana Small's cigars, which showcased a rare glimpse of his laid-back humor. By 1981, Johnny took greater control of his career by founding his independent record label, Mad Albino. This was driven by necessity, as major labels showed little interest in releasing Whoopin', a collaborative project with blues legends Sonny Terry and Willie Dixon. The album, featuring a blend of acoustic and electric blues, became a deeply personal triumph, with Sonny Terry declaring it his favorite record, a sentiment that moved Johnny profoundly. Johnny's live work remained relentless, including a short but impactful tour with longtime collaborator Uncle John Turner, capped by a celebrated appearance at the Chicago Blues Festival. His tireless touring from 1982 to 1983 solidified his reputation as commanding live performer, especially in Europe, where sold-out shows in cities like Hamburg and Vienna demonstrated his widespread appeal. Despite lineup changes, Johnny's electrifying performances continued to underscore his mastery of the guitar and his commitment to the blues. A pivotal moment came in 1984 when Johnny signed with Alligator Records, a label devoted to preserving authentic blues. This partnership marked a return to his roots and resulted in The Guitar Slinger, one of his most acclaimed albums, which earned a Grammy nomination and re-established him as a prominent figure in the blues world. He followed it with Serious Business up in 1985, another Grammy-nominated effort, and concluded his Alligator trilogy with Third Degree in 1986. These albums, featuring collaborations with luminaries like Dr. John and Tommy Shannon, showcased Johnny's versatility, with tracks ranging from electrified blues to acoustic pieces played on his cherished National Steel guitar. Johnny's tours during the mid-'80s were equally impactful. The Guitar Slinger Tour and subsequent performances took him across the globe, from intimate venues to major festivals. By 1987, his Third Degree tour brought him back to Europe and North America, where he delivered soul-stirring renditions of blues standards and original compositions, demonstrating his ability to connect with audiences on a profound level. In 1988, Johnny experimented with a more modern sound on The Winter of '88, produced by Terry Manning. The album combined traditional blues with contemporary production, appealing to new listeners while staying true to his roots. His standout performance that year at the Blues Festival in Pistoia, Italy, earned high praise for its raw intensity and masterful guitar work. As always, Johnny remained a commanding presence on stage, enthralling audiences with his fierce slide playing and unwavering passion for the blues. The decade closed with the winter of '88-'89 tour, which saw Johnny delivering high-energy performances across Europe alongside bassist John Paris and drummer Tom Compton. Fan favorites like Mojo Boogie and Highway 61 Revisited were given new life through Johnny's electrifying interpretations, proving his ability to keep audiences riveted no matter how familiar the material. Reflecting on his journey as the 1980s ended, Johnny continued to wield the same fiery passion that had fueled his career from the very beginning. The early 1990s were a time of revitalization for Johnny, who approached the decade with an unrelenting drive to reaffirm his place as a blues legend. While many of his contemporaries faded into the background, Winter remained a force to be reckoned with, producing some of his most heartfelt work and continuing to deliver electrifying live performances. In 1991, he released Let Me In, an album that saw him returning to more raw, more authentic blues sound following the mixed reception of the last album, The Winter of '88. Produced by Dick Sherman, the album featured standout tracks like Illustrated Man and Life is Hard, earning Winter a Grammy nomination and re-establishing him as a dominant figure in the blues scene. Winter's live performances during this period were nothing short of captivating. Touring relentlessly, he wove material from Let Me In into his set lists, alongside fan favorites like Jumpin' Jack Flash and Highway 61 Revisited. A notable highlight was his performance at the 1991 Madison Square Garden tribute concert, where his searing rendition of Highway 61 Revisited, backed by Booker T and the MGs, left even seasoned musicians like Donald Duck Dunn visibly impressed. These live shows, fueled by his unmistakable slide guitar and unyielding energy, reinforced his reputation as a master performer. In 1992, Winter released Hey, Where's Your Brother?, an album that solidified his resurgence. The record featured collaborations with his brother Edgar, whose saxophone and organ added depth to tracks like Johnny Guitar and You Keep Leavin'. The album also included a memorable holiday track, Please Come Home for Christmas, which became a fan favorite. Winter's subsequent tours saw him traverse the globe, performing to devoted audiences who marveled at his ability to channel decades of blues history into each note. A standout moment occurred during a rain-soaked performance at Toronto's Ontario Place in 1993, where Winter's silhouetted figure against a backdrop of lightning became a near-mythical image of his resilience. The mid-1990s marked a period of reflection for Winter as he garnered long-overdue recognition for his contributions to blues rock. Guitar magazines featured in-depth retrospectives on his career, shedding light on his groundbreaking techniques and influence on future generations. Though he didn't release a new studio album during this time, Winter's live performances remained a masterclass in blues artistry. Backed by drummer Tom Compton and bassist Jeff Gans, he continued to mesmerize audiences worldwide with a mix of classic hits and newer material from his Grammy-nominated albums. However, 1996 brought challenges alongside his unyielding dedication to music. Winter, along with his brother Edgar, became embroiled in a legal battle with DC Comics over the portrayal of characters resembling them in the Jonah Hex series. Despite the legal distractions, Winter maintained a rigorous touring schedule. Fans noted his declining health, but his slide guitar playing remained as sharp as ever, proving that his passion for the blues had not waned. In 1997, Winter's frailty became more apparent, sparking concern among his most devoted fans. Despite this, he launched CPW Records with manager Teddy Slattis, giving him greater control over his music. The label's inaugural release, Johnny Winter Live in NYC '97, captured his enduring energy and raw power on stage. That same year, Winter reunited with Rick Derringer for a series of performances that celebrated their explosive collaborations from the 1970s. These shows offered glimpses of his former brilliance, underscoring his determination to persevere despite his struggles. By 1998, Winter was performing extensively across the US and Europe, though his appearances were increasingly bittersweet. Fans and critics remarked on his frail appearance and slowed pace, but his slide guitar work remained a consistent highlight. A particularly memorable performance at Finland's Pori Jazz Festival saw Winter deliver a stunning rendition of The Sun is Shining, reminding audiences of his enduring genius. Despite mounting concerns about his health and the pressures of constant touring, Winter pressed on, driven by his unshakable commitment to the blues. As the decade closed in 1999, Winter continued to tour with vigor, introducing a new drummer, Vito Liuzzi, to his band. His European tour was a highlight, with sold-out shows that reaffirmed his status as a blues icon. Fans were deeply appreciative of his performances, which often included staples like Johnny Guitar and Hideaway. Even as his physical condition visibly declined, Winter's music retained its fire, and moments of brilliance shone through in shows like his January performance at Pearl Street in Northampton, Massachusetts. These tours, filled with both challenges and triumphs, encapsulated Winter's unwavering dedication to his craft and his ability to connect with audiences despite the odds. As the decade drew to a close, Winter's persistence in the face of adversity became a defining feature of his career. His live shows, though no longer as ferocious as they had been in his prime, were still imbued with the raw emotion and technical mastery that had always set him apart. Fans who attended his concerts during these years often remarked on the mixture of sadness and admiration they felt, witnessing a legend who refused to give up despite the toll the years had taken. Between 2000 and 2007, Johnny Winter's career became a powerful blend of resilience, sporadic brilliance, and poignant battles with his declining health. Each performance was a testament to a man unwilling to abandon his craft despite the overwhelming physical challenges that grew more evident with every passing year. Fans witnessed a living legend navigating the blues with both courage and vulnerability, delivering moments that alternated between flashes of his old brilliance and heartbreaking reminders of his mortality. The year 2000 began with Johnny Winter performing at First Avenue in Minneapolis on January 17th. Frail and leaning on a cane, he needed assistance to reach his seat on stage, his appearance startling the crowd. Yet as his fingers touched the fretboard of his Firebird guitar, the unmistakable tone that had defined his career filled the room. Songs like Hideaway and The Sun is Shining entranced the audience. Though his speed had slowed and his vocals lacked their former grit, his playing's emotional depth drew cheers, and Johnny rewarded the crowd with shy, grateful smiles. On January 29th, he played the Variety Playhouse in Atlanta, where his struggles became more apparent. His hands shook as he switched guitars, his breathless voice struggled to carry, and he swayed unsteadily throughout the set. Fans, torn between admiration and concern, watched as Johnny wrestled with his limitations. Yet moments of brilliance emerged, particularly in his measured and soulful slide guitar passages, which still hinted at the genius that had captivated audiences for decades. By 2001, Johnny's challenges were more pronounced. At an April 6th performance at the Royal Oak Music Theater in Michigan, he was helped onto the stage, his movement slowed by a hip injury and impaired vision. Seated with his guitar, however, Johnny displayed surprising resilience. Despite initial missteps, renditions of Going Down and Mojo Working revealed flashes of his signature style. Fans stood throughout the show, applauding fervently as his timing and confidence sharpened by the encore. Later that April, Johnny played at Legends in Victoria, British Columbia. Fans recorded the show, describing his vocals as shaky and his playing inconsistent, with moments where the band had to fill in. Still, his slide work during The Sun is Shining silenced the audience, a poignant reminder of his enduring love for the blues. Though his physical struggles were increasingly evident, the audience's applause reflected their unwavering admiration for his determination. By 2002, Johnny's health issues were undeniable, but his passion for performing remained steadfast. On June 19th, at B.B. King Blues Club in Manhattan, he arrived on stage with the help of 2 assistants and a cane, trembling as he took his seat. Opening with 2 instrumental boogie numbers, his playing began hesitantly but gained confidence as the set progressed. By the 3rd song, What You Gonna Do?, his fire resurfaced, earning cheers for his lead guitar work. Supported by Wayne June on drums and Scott Spray on bass, Johnny delivered moments of brilliance, particularly during Johnny Guitar, where his slide playing lit up the room. Despite the toll of age and health, those moments reaffirmed his legendary status. By 2003, Johnny Winter's life had reached a breaking point. Years of health issues, substance abuse, and mismanagement had taken their toll. On stage, he was still fighting to give fans what they came for, but behind the scenes, his world was unraveling. Enter Paul Nelson, the guitarist who would not only become Johnny's musical collaborator, but also the person who helped pull him back from the brink. Johnny had been in rough shape for years, relying on a daily regimen of 5 Klonopins, washed down with alcohol to manage his anxiety. It made me feel like a vegetable, Johnny later admitted. His performances were inconsistent. Some nights he would channel his old brilliance, while others were shadowed by his physical and mental struggles. It wasn't until Nelson and harmonica player James Montgomery stepped in that things began to change. Recognizing the depth of Johnny's struggles, they helped him find a doctor who could tackle his addiction head-on. "I was a mess, but I eventually stopped everything. No pills, no alcohol," Johnny said. "Once my mind was clear, I had so much energy." To everyone's surprise, the anxiety he had battled for years vanished along with the substances. "When I got off the pills, I wasn't anxious anymore. I felt fine, and those feelings of anxiety have never come back." As Johnny began to regain control of his health, Nelson turned his attention to another source of chaos in Johnny's life, his longtime manager, Teddy Slattis. Slattis, who had worked with Johnny since the late 1960s, was grappling with his own substance abuse problems. Teddy was in horrible shape, Johnny recalled. He didn't know what he was doing. The mismanagement went beyond incompetence. Teddy had reportedly been running scams for years, charging Johnny double for expenses and skimming money wherever he could. Paul Nelson became Johnny's sounding board, carefully guiding him to recognize the toxicity of the relationship without forcing the issue. "Paul was trying to help me see the facts for what they were so I could make the decision for myself," Johnny explained. The decision wasn't easy. Slattis had been part of Johnny's life since the beginning, dating back to their days at New York Scene Club, a legendary hotspot for rock icons like Hendrix, Clapton, and Beck. But once Johnny's mind was clear, he saw the damage for what it was. "If I stayed with him, I would never have come out of it." The split with Slattis marked a turning point. Johnny handed the reins to Paul Nelson, and the results were immediate. "It was like night and day," Johnny said. "Overnight, things went from horrible to real good. Paul kept me apprised of everything that was going on, so I got straight answers and I knew what was happening with every aspect of my career." Not long after parting ways with Slattis, Johnny broke his hip and landed in the hospital. It was there that Nelson delivered the news that Slattis had passed away. By then, Johnny's feelings toward his former manager had hardened. "I didn't feel sorry for Teddy at all," he admitted. "I knew about all the bad things he had done to me." The turnaround in Johnny's life extended beyond his personal recovery. With Nelson's help, he began revitalizing his music and career. Fans who had stuck with him through his darkest years were rewarded as Johnny gradually reintroduced some of his high-energy rock and roll classics into his set lists. Tracks like Boney Maroney, Don't Take Advantage of Me, and Good Morning Little Schoolgirl found their way back into his shows, reigniting the energy of his earlier years. In 2005, Johnny reunited with his brother Edgar Winter for a deeply emotional performance in their hometown of Beaumont, Texas. The Still Alive and Well Homecoming benefit was their first public performance together in decades, and the significance of the event was not lost on anyone. Proceeds went toward hurricane recovery efforts, a cause close to their hearts after Hurricane Rita devastated the region. The crowd erupted as the brothers took the stage, Edgar introducing Johnny as his musical hero. The set included heartfelt renditions of Rock and Roll, Hoochie Coo, and Still Alive and Well, the latter serving as a triumphant anthem for Johnny's resilience. That night, the Winters were also inducted into the Southeast Texas Walk of Fame, a fitting tribute to their contributions to music and their community. By 2007, Johnny embarked on the Roadwork 2, Still Alive and Well tour, reuniting with Edgar Winter and Rick Derringer. A standout performance in Bonn, Germany, highlighted their undeniable chemistry as they traded solos, with Johnny's ferocious slide guitar on Highway 61 Revisited, earning thunderous applause. Despite visible physical decline, Johnny's unwavering dedication to the blues created unforgettable moments for fans who came not just for the music, but to witness a legend's indomitable spirit. Between 2010 and 2014, Johnny experienced a remarkable resurgence, thanks largely to the support of guitarist and manager Paul Nelson, who helped him overcome past struggles and refocus his career. Though frail and performing seated, Johnny's slide guitar retained its sharpness and raw energy. In 2011, he released The Roots, a heartfelt tribute to the blues legends who inspired him, featuring collaborations with artists like Warren Haynes and Derek Trucks. Tracks like Dust My Broom brought a fresh vitality to classic blues, earning widespread acclaim and introducing Johnny's music to a new generation. Despite his health issues, which included a visibly frail physique and limited mobility, Winter remained a tireless road warrior. His live shows in these years became more intimate and reflective, as fans flocked to see the living legend who had influenced countless guitarists. The performances were a testament to his resilience, as Winter refused to let his physical limitations diminish his connection with the audience. His setlist featured a mix of blues standards and fan favorites, with highlights like Highway 61 Revisited and Mojo Boogie, often bringing audiences to their feet. In 2014, Winter began work on what would become his final studio album, Step Back. Like The Roots, it featured a stellar lineup of guest artists, including Eric Clapton, Joe Perry, and Billy Gibbons. The project was a celebration of blues music's enduring power, with Winter taking on songs by luminaries like Elmore James, Robert Johnson, and Muddy Waters. His renditions of tracks like Can't Hold Out, Talk to Me Baby, and Where Can You Be were infused with the raw energy and emotional depth that had always defined his playing. Step Back Up was released in September 2014, just weeks after Winter's passing. The album was met with critical acclaim and went on to win a Grammy Award for Best Blues Album in 2015, a fitting tribute to a career that had spanned more than 5 decades. Winter's work on the record, characterized by a profound reverence for the blues and an undiminished passion for guitar playing, was hailed as a crowning achievement. Johnny Winter passed away on July 16, 2014, in his hotel room in Zurich, Switzerland, while on tour. The news of his death sent shockwaves through the music world, as fans and fellow musicians alike mourned the loss of a true icon. Tributes poured in, celebrating Winter's immense contributions to music and his indomitable spirit. His influence, which had shaped the sound of blues rock and inspired countless players, was undeniable. Johnny Winter's story, layered with a ton of talent, a lot of setbacks, and full-on redemption, is as compelling as his fiery guitar work. Beneath the myth of his larger-than-life blues persona lies a man who weathered intense personal struggles, a complicated relationship with his management, and a relentless pursuit of the music he loved. His career had moments of pure brilliance, but also by periods of darkness, misunderstanding, and resilience. Johnny was asked directly about the rumors surrounding his manager at the time, claims that the manager had supplied him with heroin and pushed him deeper into addiction. He denied it unequivocally, saying, "Well, no, he never did." When pressed about whether efforts were made to get him into rehab, he admitted there were multiple attempts. Despite this, stories about his manager's involvement persisted, often shared by others in his circle who offered little in the way of evidence or specific recollections to substantiate the claims. The truth about this period remains murky, though it's clear Johnny had his fair share of battles with addiction and the fallout of poor management. For all his accomplishments, the fact that Johnny Winter has never been inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame remains a glaring oversight. It's a sore point for his fans, especially when artists like Madonna and Dolly Parton have been inducted while Johnny, whose contributions to rock and blues are indisputable, remains overlooked. As one fan put it, he wasn't a good guitarist. He was a fabulous guitarist with scary skills. Johnny's legacy lies not just in his technical mastery, but in his unyielding spirit. His fluidity on the guitar, whether playing electric, acoustic, slide, or even dobro, was unparalleled. He made it look effortless, channeling the blues in its purest form while occasionally veering into realms that few others could reach. Even his harmonica playing showcased his musical depth. And while his career had its fair share of missteps, Johnny Winter ultimately overcame adversity to reaffirm his place as a true giant of the blues. When asked late in his life what it felt like to just go back to being Johnny Winter, he paused, a grin twisting his face as he considered the question. "Yes, sir," he said, which these days isn't really so bad. It wasn't bad at all. For Johnny, the blues was a lifelong calling, a relentless drive that neither addiction, poor management, nor age could extinguish. Something really weird I just found out. The most expensive guitar on Amazon is a signature guitar, and you won't believe whose signature guitar it is. I left the link below in the description. And to my subscribers, I really want to thank you so much for all the inspiration and feedback. I truly do appreciate it. And if you haven't had a chance to subscribe to this channel, make sure you smack that subscribe button. And while you're at it, hit the like button, join the family, and I want to thank you so much for watching.